welcome to this EdTech session, everybody. Really great to see so many of you joining us this afternoon. My name's Tricia Odell, and my background is in professionalism. So I was responsible for leading on the development of the professional standards that I'm sure you're all familiar with. And I've got a particular interest in professional learning, so teacher learning. I'll be starting the session off and drawing the session to a close. And I'm joined by Sarah Simons.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, please. I'm Sarah Simons. I teach in the community and I've taught in lots of colleges, functional skills and sometimes drama and sometimes creative writing. And I write for the TES, and I have lots of adventures with the ETF as well. Oh, and UKFE chat. Yeah, I do UKFE chat as well. I think that's it, Tricia. Have I forgotten anything?
Okay, all right. So just a bit of housekeeping before we make a start. If you are unfamiliar with Zoom, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but if you're unfamiliar, you'll find the chat pane by moving your mouse to the bottom of the Zoom screen, and you'll see an icon labelled chat. If you're on an iPad or similar, it may be at the top of your screen, but if you select it, you will either see a panel floating on your screen, or if you're not in full screen, it'll appear as a column on the right-hand side. So really important, you'll be able to send a chat message to either everyone or just some participants by selecting the drop-down arrow, and you'll be able to type in your chat. So this is going to have a very interactive session. Sure, Sarah's going to be asking you to comment, ask questions. So if you're not familiar, please do just make sure you can find the chat box, the chat pane. Moving on to the next slide then, please. This is, again, oh, no, sorry, the one just before, that's the one. It's the one that's about the participants panel. So this, again, is really important. If you select the participants icon, which you can also find at the bottom of the screen, you'll be able to see a list of participants, and underneath it you'll see the feedback status icons, but also the icons yes, no, etc. Now, Barbara's asked me to ask that you check your name in the participants panel. Please look at the participants panel, you'll see your name. Could you please make sure that you've used your registered name today and rename it if incorrect? Because if we don't recognise your name from the name in today's webinar, unfortunately, Barbara won't be able to send out your certificate. So drop Barbara a line in the chat if you've got any problems changing your name. So that's really important. Make sure you're named as you are, as you were when you registered for this event. Okay, so on to the aims and objectives. So that's the next slide. So here's today's aim. We're going to be exploring ways in which you can support your own as well as others' well-being. And Sarah's put digital in brackets, so she's given us a bit of an explanation as to why she's done that. And this is because she's put it in brackets because what you might think of as your real life well-being, for example, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, workload, energy levels, all those sort of things, and your well-being in a digital context might be completely connected, dependent on your own definition of digital well-being, which we're going to have a look at as part of this webinar. So there's a reason why digital is in brackets. And in terms of the objectives, we're going to be looking at how we define digital well-being and exploring some of the associated behaviours, values and needs. And we're also going to be looking at some strategies and tools that you can use for managing your own and others' personal well-being and mental health. And in the final section, we'll be taking you through some of the very useful EdTech resources on the enhanced teaching platform, and also having a look at the EdTech badging scheme that you may or may not already be familiar with, and thinking about how you can use the scheme to support the development of digital skills of yourself and others. So moving on, and Francesca, yes, the slides will be available afterwards, so no need to take notes. So we'll be getting those out to you in the next couple of days. So moving on to the session outline, we've got 6 sections, and I think it's time to move on to Sarah, who's going to be taking you through the next few slides.
Yes, so welcome to digital wellbeing and supporting your staff to manage theirs. This phrase, digital wellbeing, is cropping up everywhere, isn't it? Especially over the past year when the way that most of us live and work has changed. So I'd like to start by asking you what you think digital wellbeing is. If you could pop your definition of digital wellbeing into the chat pane, that'd be brilliant. What you think digital wellbeing is. So let's have a look. Has anyone put anything in yet? Oh, a balanced use of digital tools. Lovely, thank you. Very broad, from advertising to website to resources to Zoom skills, creating a healthy relationship with tech, good balance, this word balance again, maintaining healthy relationship with online world, balanced technology, healthy use of digital, using digital technologies in a supportive, balanced way, maximising use to digital resources while maintaining your learners' physical and mental health. Yeah, these are all brill. Feeling safe online and confident about using technology, being savvy and setting boundaries to balance use and interaction, staying safe, how using digital tools can impact mental and emotional health. All of these, are you seeing these come up? These are brilliant. Knowing when to switch off.
Yeah, yes.
That's a good one, isn't it?
I like that one. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, brilliant. Digital habits. So if we couldn't thank you for these, they're brill. And the answer is, there isn't an answer. So it turns out there isn't an agreed or even a most used definition of what digital wellbeing is. So every definition seems to differ a little or a lot. And here are just a few of them that caught my eye after reading many, many, many. So state of being content and comfortable with the role that technology occupies in an individual's life. What words did we use a lot? Balance, healthy. Yeah, digital technologies do not impact negatively on safety, relationships, or mental and physical health. I don't know if any of these ring particularly true with anyone here. But if we could move on to the next slide, please. So after reading through, as I say, many definitions, the idea of digital wellbeing seems to fall into one or more of these categories. So to live a healthy life despite the risk of negative impact of digital tech, taking care of health, work safety and relationships in digital settings, using tech to support mental, physical health and wellbeing in the real world, or healthy use of digital technologies to balance real and digital lives. So a lot of the words you were using and the words that I was using when I was, kind of trying to get a bit of an overview of what it means are really similar. So digital wellbeing can have a completely different meaning dependent on which definition or motivation you ascribe to. And this is another reason why the aim of the session, I put the word digital in brackets so we can focus on the wellbeing bit. As managers and as leaders, you're supporting teachers to support learners. So maintaining your own wellbeing is crucial. And of course, that is much easier said than done when most of us have mountains of responsibilities away from work as well as in work. So I'm going to ask you to do something again. So what I'd like you to do in the context of the past year, what issues have been your main worries for yourself regarding digital wellbeing and working from home? So it might be something like expectation of overwork, or that you'll always be available, or lack of routine, or something like that. So let's have a look. If you just put some ideas on constant Zoom meetings, no break, yeah. Accessibility of online resources, yeah. Too much screen time. It's hard to get that differentiation between home and work, isn't it, when we're working at home, working overtime, getting used to new platforms. Yeah, constant Zoom meetings. We'll be doing a bit about Zoom in a bit. Yeah, always being available, learners being able to contact you whenever they want and posting messages. And it's sometimes it's kind of, even if they don't have the expectation that you're going to go straight back to them, we can still have that feeling, can't we, that we should get back to them. Internet crashing, people being in your house. Yeah, that's, again, it's boundaries, isn't it? Own expectations, trying to find good resources without spending too long searching and creating. Dining room becoming workspace. Yeah. Time management. I think we're all having similar sort of experiences, aren't we? So with all of that in mind, could we just move on to the next slide, please? So before we go on, I just wanted to remind you of this from Kay Sidebottom, who's a lecturer in education and childhood at Leeds Beckett University. She pops it up every so often on Twitter. And there was one day I was having a really bad day. I was really overwhelmed with, too much everything. And I saw this and it just changed my attitude for that day. It just allowed me to go, yes. So I'm trying to bung it into every session I do, because the further away we get from what life used to be like, the easier it is to forget that we're living through something that'll be written about for centuries. We're in the middle of that, and it's hopefully coming towards the end of it. But it's a lot and we're getting through it. So thumbs up. So we could move on to the next one, please. So to explore the relationship between digital technology and wellbeing, it's worth having a look at behaviour, values and needs in a broader sense, as every choice we make, whether that's in the realm of digital or beyond, is driven by individual needs. So if we move on to the next one. The BBC are doing some dead interesting and ongoing research about behaviour, values and needs, and there's a link to all of this stuff and the PDFs when we send the presentation out, which you can, obviously use as resources if you want to. The BBC's mission is to enable the BBC to put human values at the heart of delivering public service value, which could be transferred to what we do, human values, public service values, meeting the two. And with that in mind, they've been doing some research about behaviour, values and needs, researching the needs of their audience to understand the values on an in-demand, personalised and fully connected world. So obviously they're talking about what they supply, what they're involved with, but it could just as easily be transferred. So behaviour is an action of an individual within the context of their environment, and behaviour is easy to measure and easy to observe. So behaviour sits at the top of the iceberg. Conversely, the needs are at the bottom, driving the behaviour. And although a number of general needs have been represented in a number of psychological models like Maslow and all that sort of thing, it's generally difficult to describe what our individual needs are or map specific needs to our own behaviours. We might all be behaving in the same way as other people, but have completely different intentions, motivations or needs. So this BBC research shows that generally we're able to explicitly describe our values, and these values express the underlying needs and motivations which serve as guiding principles for our thoughts and attitudes. So we're trying to find out what the values are so we know what people really need. The shape of our everyday behaviour is demonstrated to affect everything from voting behaviour, consumer decisions, choice of university, choice of degree course, and understanding these core values enables us to identify the drivers for our actions. So we're going to get a bit deep next, so brace yourself. If you go on to the next bit, please, Barbara. So this gateway to understanding needs and motivations is to understand core values. The BBC Research Project defines these values as personal judgments about things we consider to be important, an expression of our needs and psychological drivers that shape everyday behaviour. And this human values project has stripped it back to the core human level to understand what is fundamentally important to people in life. These values were found to play a foundational role in shaping everyday behaviour, and they're driven by psychological needs. The values are prioritised differently across different stages of life and become heightened in response to events, situations, or stress in the individual environment. So what I'd like you to do, and this is the bit that gets a bit tricky, I'd like you to have a look through these 14 values and ask yourself, are these values with the underlying need and motivational goals being met in my life? Because I found this quite a useful and quite an intense checklist. Obviously, the second to last one, none of us are exploring the world at the moment, but we could perhaps exchange that for curiosity about the world. So I'll just leave you with that for a minute, just to have a look through. I think if you've got all 14, you're doing well. Or maybe there should be a gauge for how much of each one you have. But I think they're quite important, and I really like how they dissect psychological drivers and values. So with this as well, if you do want to use this for any as resources afterwards, there's all sorts of bits and bobs that go with it, various cards and games and things that they have on that website, which, as I say, there's a link to. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. So most big tech companies, or companies that are involved with tech, like the BBC, have been doing lots of work and lots of research and development on digital wellbeing. We're going to look at some short films which are on the Android website, and they really caught my eye. But before we look at them, I'd like to ask you the questions first. So, number one, what do you use your phone for? If you can pop that in the chat pane, that'd be brilliant. What do you use your phone for mainly? I'm going to pop some of mine in. Shopping, internet research, texting, taking pictures. Yeah. Oh, do you know, I forgot about that. Yeah, most pictures are on the phone now, aren't they? Reminders, share prices, social media. Yeah, lots of us do our social media on the phone, don't we? Music, reminders, booking holidays. Ooh. Sorry, I just had a little reminiscence then what it was like booking holidays and going on holidays, but fingers crossed, not too long. Facebook, running apps, Couch to 5K, health checks, job search, brilliant. So we use it for all sorts of stuff. Email tracking, health check, yeah, all of this. So could we have a look at that first little video, please? They're only about a minute and a half, and there's some people talking, and then they have a psychologist come in and explain it properly.
It's more like, what don't I use it for?
Look up new menus.
Look up facts on the spot.
I like to take pictures.
I'm pretty much addicted to podcasts.
I'll check YouTube a lot.
Yeah, YouTube. All up in the socials.
I have it in my hand literally all day, every day.
I find myself getting pulled away, like during work days, I check my phone.
You're gonna just watch one movie or, one show, and next thing you know, you've finished an entire season.
And then it was suddenly like 5 o'clock, and I was like, oh my God, the whole day has gone.
Okay, we're rolling, everybody.
Technology touches every aspect of our lives now, and we associate the devices with certain ways we spend our time. But it's not really the technology that typically gets us out of whack. It's what we do with our technology.
Technology is so frictionless on how you move between the different sources that one of the strategies we can do is just make it less accessible, make that next source of information a little bit more difficult to reach, and that would drive you to remain in the source of your attention for a longer period of time.
The goal is, to try and make your phone into a place where when you touch it, it's going to pull you in the direction you want to go instead of pulling you off focus.
Thank you. Thank you. I just saw that come up in the chat pane from Joanne saying, have you ever had a younger person asking why is it called a phone? I'm going to be saying what that girl said on there about being all up in her socials. I think she means going on Facebook and that, doesn't she? So next one, what distracts you most? I'm going to ask you to tell me that first. What distracts you most on your phone? I know what distracts me. Facebook, Twitter. You pop in there. Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, social media, my 4-year-old. Instagram. Yeah, emails. Pinging. Facebook and emails. WhatsApp, Pinterest. Oh, love a bit of Pinterest. Next door, don't know what that is. Get an idea, getting an idea and wanting to find it out instantly. Oh, resolved Facebook issue by deleting your account. Oh, well done. Not strong enough for that yet. I've still got to find out what everybody's doing all the time. Free courses, lovely. Oh, next door is a local area activity. Brilliant. Thank you. Can we have a look at this video now, please, Barbara, about what distracts these people most in life?
Something that distracts me?
Oh man, computers.
Traffic.
This thing.
My phone, for sure, yeah.
My wife. I was just kidding.
Seeing the lights flash on my phone.
You have to look at it because it bothers me if I just hear it.
Or like vibrator or whatever. I'll be like, oh God, I gotta check that.
My attention span is down to about 10 seconds.
Nothing is intrinsically distracting, right? If you want to be spending an hour on social media paging through your friends' updates, then that is not a distraction. It's only a distraction if you find yourself doing that when you meant to be working on something else.
It's really important to understand the weaknesses and how your brain processes information. When you're focusing on something, you activate a network in your brain that involves the prefrontal cortex and its connectivity with the rest of the brain. If there is a distraction, it degrades the strength of this connectivity, and that degrades your performance. You can be pulled away from something that's really important to you by something that's really superficial. To me, a healthy relationship with technology is one that's informed, where you make decisions about how you engage with it, and not allowing it to drive your interactions.
And so it really is a matter of each of us setting really clear intentions and then developing tactics that help us stay focused when we do get distracted.
Thank you. So, if you're doing something on your phone that you want to be doing, that's not a distraction. I teach some creative writing courses at the moment. And one of the struggles that I have with my students is them giving themselves permission to get lost down internet rabbit holes on a research. If they're researching something for a character, the idea that going off on a tangent is brilliant, because they might come up with more stories than they ever dreamed that they would, that were so far away from what they started out with. But that's the way that I want them to go with the creative process. And I think we're so used to trying to stay on track that it feels really kind of against their instincts to just enjoy getting lost. See, somebody's put internet movie database. When I start a new TV program, I'm the same. And what's the other one? Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes. It's like whether I'm allowed to watch that program or not. So the last one, the last question that I'm going to ask you on this is, what's the last thing you do at night? listen to a talk or audio book. Try to read a book before bed. Lovely. Read my Kindle, read a book, listen to my Calm app. Oh, I do that as well. Listen to a digital book, music, check share prices, do meditation, read my Kindle, BBC Sounds, read news, read a book on my iPhone. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, to kind of stay away from your phone. So if we could just have a look at that little video, what's the last thing you do before going to sleep?
One of the last things I do before bed, check my phone.
Watch some videos from my favorite channel.
Usually I check the weather. Okay, Google.
Read a book.
I really want to say that I read because I tried it, but
The ratio of wasting time increases, I think, when I'm tired.
If I happen to like hear my phone vibrate on my nightstand, that's gonna keep me up. I'm gonna have to check whatever just popped up on my phone.
I'm on my phone pretty much for an hour before I go to sleep every night.
When people are using technology right before bed, they want to keep using it. It's activating their mind rather than shutting down their mind and allowing them to unwind. And what's often happening is patients are not able to unplug. And so there isn't kind of a natural stop time unless we put those parameters down.
So we actually can use digital technology to nudge people or remind them to do things that they want to do that are related to their personal goals. And you can do that with sleep as well.
It really should be this idea of digital mindfulness. What meaning are we getting out of our usage? Is our technology enabling us to achieve our self goals? Or is our technology distracting us and taking away from us? It's really just about how do you balance all the different activities in your life in a way that's meaningful to you and that feels good to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I really liked what she said there. What meaning are we getting out of our usage? And if we could go on to our next slide, please. So this is from Google. They've done some interesting research on their website that places engagement with different functions of tech alongside the perception of whether it's positive or negative impact. Overall, people think technology has a neutral or a positive impact on their well-being, but it's an interesting relationship between how often people perform an activity and its perceived impact on their well-being. So if we could have a look at that website, please. Again, this might be good for as a resource for the future. So if we scroll down a bit, people's relationship with tech. So here's all the different activities, the engagement and the positive perception. So if we move on to the next bit. So look, checking phone notifications, high engagement, low positive perception, and they go further down and down and down until one of the lowest things is reading a book, you know, with tech, a really low engagement level, but a really high positive perception. So these are all here for you to look through later. And then this is, again, this is something that you can scroll through. Let's have a look at, where's the social media? Using social media, high engagement, lower positive perception. As compared to, what's this one right down at the bottom on the engagement? Learning on educational apps or sites. Lowest engagement, I think it's the highest positive perception. So all these different actions, different things that you can do with tech, it's really interesting to see how the engagement level and the positive and the negative perceptions align, or whether they do or not. So again, that's something to look at afterwards. And if we could go on to the next slide, please. So it's difficult to talk about well-being without mentioning mental health. And hopefully we're now living in a culture where we're more aware of mental health and well-being. It doesn't seem like a secret anymore. And there's usually a range of support and intervention pathways that are available for students. And, you know, it's part of our duty of care to create safe and trusting relationships where students can ask for help and we can signpost them towards that. But what if you or a member of your team or your friends or your family are feeling a downturn and, you know, something that's more than a rubbish day or a bad mood? What if maintaining good mental health is starting to become a struggle? And who hasn't struggled over the past year at one time or another? There's been times where it's been pretty bleak for lots of us. So I've talked and written about my own adventures with mental health for years, particularly about, can you hear my Walter kicking off? Dogs joining in. Particularly about depression and addiction. And I've got absolutely no shame or fear of judgment about being completely open on this subject, in the same way that I wouldn't if I was talking about, say, having broken my ankle. So these suggestions on the left are the usual suggestions for combating low mood or even managing something more serious. And I've added try to at the beginning of them all on purpose, because what constitutes a win is entirely subjective. Sometimes if you're having a really, really difficult time, getting out of bed is a win. Sometimes having a shower is a win. Never mind doing 30 minutes of exercise. Sometimes getting through the day at work is a win. It's completely subjective. So there's these ones here, trying to talk and share how you feel, try to do some exercise, try to limit alcohol, try to get into a routine. And the most important one is, for me, is to talk to your GP, talk to a professional about it. My favourites, after having gone through this since, well, ever since I can remember, since I was about 14, one of them is, an important one, is to work out how you feel. And I love a mind map because I can, you know, work out various issues and kind of unpack them a little bit. If you're having a really down day, and it's possible to, sometimes it's better just to embrace that down day. You know, if you're feeling rubbish, you don't want "Remember You're a Womble" on the radio, do you? You want to kind of embrace that feeling and go with it and think, I'm going to have a better day tomorrow. No, and it's okay to say no. Sometimes, work-wise especially, just keeping your head above water is good enough. You know, if that's what it takes for you to maintain your work life and you're in the right frame of mind to maintain your work life, good enough is okay. If you need to retreat, now I know this is something I've done in various times through my life where it's just been too much and I've just wanted to not go out, not see, I mean, we don't have the choice now, but not see friends, not get involved. I've learned that if I need to retreat for a while, saying to my mates, look, I'm having a bit of quiet time. I don't want to go out. I'd rather just be at home and do my thing. And rather than adding to my own stress by avoiding contact and then that becoming a thing, how am I, you know, what are they going to think? I've been away for ages. Just say, I'm, you know, I need a bit of time. Something I've written about is making mental and emotional health into a project. I wrote about that in the TS quite recently. Learning about it, learning about mental health, learning about your own mental health, reading, watching, researching, taking notes and turning it into a project. I blooming love a project. And if I turn it into that, it feels slightly different. This next one's a bit of a Facebook one, isn't it? Stop making comparisons. Finding somebody who seems to have the most perfect life who you were at school with and wondering why yours isn't in that same level of perfect. Theirs isn't in that same level of perfect either. Facebook life or Instagram life is an edited version, you know, and it's worth remembering that if you're seeing somebody and thinking, why not me, sort of thing. Keeping an eye on how you talk to yourself. I think that's something that I know I can forget about. And I would talk to myself sometimes. My inner critic would be far worse than I would ever talk to anybody else. or ever think about anybody else. So it's worth just keeping a bit of an eye on how you talk to yourself. And I know we're all talk about being kind and being kind to ourselves, but when you're thinking everybody's cleverer than me, everybody's better than me, imagine you saying that to somebody else. You wouldn't. So treat yourself like you would treat somebody that you really love. And as I said before, talk to your GP, seek professional help, find somebody who knows about this, and find, if you're in that place that you need to. And if we could just move on to the next slide. The Association of Colleges Mental Health and Wellbeing Charter, they're recognising this, that college has a responsibility to create an environment that promotes student and staff wellbeing and that proactively supports student and staff mental health. So there's links to all of this in the presentation. So if we could move on to the next one. Thank you. So Zoom fatigue. So on the slide, there's various symptoms and suggestions for solutions. So let's start with Zoom fatigue. The slide, there's some symptoms, but I'm going to talk about the causes of it. You might be at the point where you dread seeing a Zoom invite because you associate it with having to tidy up your background, force a smile, have to mess about dealing with internet connectivity issues or somebody else's. But Zoom fatigue is a real thing that lots of us are experiencing. Well, according to Technology, Mind and Behaviour Journal, non-verbal overload, a theoretical argument for the causes of Zoom fatigue by Jeremy Ballinson, there are 4 very strong arguments to explain why this is a thing. First of all, eye gaze at a close distance. We're much closer to each other than we would be in real life. It's weird. It's not normal, for those who are interested in non-verbal behaviour. The comparison is getting in a lift. So in a lift, people are forced to violate the spatial norms. They've got to stand very close to strangers, and it's uncomfortable. It exceeds the typical amounts of intimacy that people tend to display with strangers. And as a result, people in a lift always, in the old days when we could all go in lifts, they all tend to look away from each other and look in the same direction or look down. Otherwise, you're too close to people. And so you have to kind of find a way to avoid eye contact. But on Zoom, behaviour, which is ordinarily reserved for close relationships, such as long stretches of direct eye contact and faces really close up, has now become the way we interact. Imagine if we were in real life. Who am I looking at? I'm looking at Francesca. We're far nearer each other than we would be in real life, aren't we? It'd be odd. And we're getting used to this new way of communicating. Another thing is cognitive load. In face-to-face interaction, non-verbal communication flows naturally, to the point where we're rarely consciously attending to our own gestures and other non-verbal cues. But on Zoom, non-verbal behaviour remains complex. And you need to work harder to send and receive those signals. The next one is all-day mirror. So imagine in a workplace, for the entirety of an 8-hour day, someone follows you around with a hand mirror. Well, you'd have them arrested, wouldn't you, first of all? But imagine that for every single task, you've got somebody going, look, there's you doing that thing, there's you talking. And they made sure you could see your own face in that mirror. And it sounds ridiculous, but in essence, that's what's happening on Zoom calls all the time. We're seeing ourselves too much. And of course, reduced mobility. During face-to-face meetings, people move. They pace, they stand up, they stretch, they doodle, they get up, they use a board. And because, obviously, the way Zoom calls are, we have to stay close to enough to reach the keyboard. we're not moving very much at all. So in essence, users are stuck in a very small physical area, and most of the time this equates to sitting down staring straight ahead. So Zoom fatigue's real. This is a strange set of circumstances that we find ourselves in, where we're all talking to each other really close, with far more focus on the other people than you would, and on yourself, than you normally would. So if we could move on to the next one, please. So with that in mind, and the amount of time that we're spending in front of a screen, let's have a look at a few digital tools we can use to reduce discomfort and reduce distraction. So there's these ones. First of all, this reduces discomfort, this work rave, to get bespoke kind of screen freeze nags with suggested exercises. Screenshot shows micro break notifications, and so you can kind of work out how long that you've been in front of your screen. There's the ones that change the colour of your screen to help with eye comfort, which is screen shader. So the shot has all the different colours, the image to the side, and then the screen shader colour and tab with the BBC website after switching on the screen shader. So just so it might suit your eyes better. And of course, dictation tools, using the word dictate on, or voice typing on your phone can give you a bit of time away from looking down, typing. If we move on to the next one, please. So this is about distraction. There's numerous apps and tools to help provide background sounds that help mask annoying noises and improve focus and potentially boost productivity. My favourite, after going through quite a lot of them, is a soft murmur, because it makes me feel like I'm a record producer. Let's have a look. Can we have a look, Barbara, please? Look at this. Barbara, could I have less birds and more thunder, please? Thank you. And what about my singing bowl? Can I have a bit more singing bowl? A bit less wind, a bit more coffee shop. So this has all sorts of stuff on here that you can make your own sound. We put them really loud now, but what we put on waves, thunder, all of this stuff. We can work out with the timer. Thank you. So thank you. That didn't sound massively relaxing just then, but that's because it's quite loud. And you work out what you need to gain sort of maximum relaxation from that, or as a distraction if there's lots of other noises going on. As well as audio support to reduce distraction, there are tools to strip away visual clutter, like the Reader View app from Chrome, for example. So that's showing it over there. So getting rid of all the adverts, all the bits and bobs all around it, so you can read exactly what you're wanting to. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. So in addition to these tools, there's lots of support and learning on the ETF's Enhance website, which I'm just going to take you for a look at now. So if you could put edtech.etfoundation.co.uk, I've said that wrong, hold on, I'm going to put it in the chat. So if you could we're just going to have a look at it. If you could get yourself on there, that would be brilliant. So if we can get you up and running, so at some point in the future you can have a go. So once you're on there, oh, let me know if you're on there. Is there a thumbs up or a, yeah, give us a thumbs up if you're on, if you've got yourself on there. Can you see the thumbs up at the bottom of the reactions in your Zoom panel at the bottom? Can you see that? Thumbs up. Lovely. Right, so once you're on there, if we can move on to the next slide, please. So first of all, if you click on categories on the top of that website, and these two will drop down, EdTech and EDS. If you click on EdTech, you should have a load of categories drop down. These are the module categories. Is everybody seeing that, or shall I go back a bit? Let me know, give me a thumbs up if you're all right. So when you've got to the point where it's all dropping down and you can see all these different module categories, if you click on digital wellbeing, which is about halfway down, it'll take you to the modules within that category. So if you click on digital wellbeing, which is, as I say, about halfway down, so you'll be on a page that looks something like the stuff on the right. So there should be 11, there's 11 modules within this category. There's 6 which are the exploring modules, 4 adopting and 1 leading. So there are all different levels and different with different categories within that. So if we move on to the next one. So when you're in digital wellbeing module, they all have this similar sort of layout. There's information at the top, then there's an animation, which is they're normally about 3 to 4 minutes. Then there's some activities to work through. You can write notes into about the subject as it's happening, and then you click through the summary. And for a level 1 badge, for a 1-star badge, that's it. So these are really short, bite-sized bits of quite focused learning, which then you have the opportunity to look at in more depth, working through the module and the various categories around them. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. So from the feedback we've had, the further resources section, which is at the end of each module, there's a load of resources. So through that, you can take the learning as far as you want to with the links, and it takes you into this, the real life version of what you've just been learning about. So you can put it directly into practice following the further resources. Did everybody get onto there? Did you get onto there and get to the point where at some point in the future you can get yourself on and have a bit of a play? Yes, lovely, brilliant. As I say, you could be able to go through all of this. Oh, can't see where to go. If you look a little bit further up the chat where it says Enhance ET Foundation, and if you click on that, is it possible to track who completed these modules? Yes, it is. And that thing is something that Tricia's going to tell you about now. If I can hand over to Tricia.
Okay, thanks very much, Sarah. So I'm going to take you through a little bit more information about the badges. Sarah was telling you a little bit about them, so let's look at them in a little bit more detail. And so thank you. Looking at the badge categories. So a badge is a way of evidencing that teachers or trainers have taken a bite-sized bit of learning from one or more of the modules that Sarah talked about and applied it to their role in teaching practice. So she says it's very much a focused piece of learning. And if you achieve a badge, you can add these to both your Facebook and LinkedIn profiles, so the digital badges. And you can work towards badges in 4 module categories, and you can see those across the top. So we've got accessibility modules, dealing with difference and diversity, connected and effective, and the digital teacher. And we've also got some guides available in the connected and effective categories. If you're struggling to find information about the badges, you can simply Google Enhance Badge Scheme, and up will pop lots of information and guidance about the badges. So if we go on to the next slide, please. Here is some more details and a little table that helps to explain the different badges and the different stages. So these digital badges that we're talking about are linked to the 3 stages of the digital teaching professional framework that you may be familiar with. So the stages are down the left-hand side of the table: exploring, adopting, and leading. At exploring stage, you're really at a beginner stage in relation to the module area, and you're thinking about how you might put the learning into practice with your learners. At adopting stage, you're ready to start adopting the new practices with your learners. And then at the highest level, at a leading level, this recognises that you have a high level of knowledge about the module category, and you can start to guide and support peers. So you may well be in a middle leader or a senior leader role if you're thinking about undertaking a leading badge. So you can gain badges at 3 levels, and you can earn a 1-star badge. So you can see the table there across the top. We've got 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star. So you can earn a 1-star badge, and to do that, you need to complete a cluster of modules in a module area. And once you've done that, you're then encouraged to go on to take a 2-star badge, and this involves sharing a reflection about how you intend to or have applied the learning to your particular context, to your learners. And once you've completed a 2-star badge, then you can go on to a 3-star badge, and this involves putting together a resource, developing a resource, and then submitting a reflection. Now, one of the brilliant things about the 2- and 3-star badge scheme is that if you submit a reflection and or a resource, you'll receive constructive feedback from 2 reviewers in the enhanced team, and they can signpost you to further resources and webinars. And we've heard feedback from people that have engaged in the scheme that this is a real benefit. So it's personalised feedback that's really valued by teachers and trainers and support workers who are engaging with the scheme. So do take a look at the badges if you haven't already done so. I mean, it'd be quite good if anybody has already engaged in the scheme to give us a thumbs up so that we can actually see if there's anybody out there who's already been doing some, particularly the 2- and 3-star badges. So anybody out there who's been doing some of the badges?
Tricia, can I also add about the management dashboard?
Oh yes, please do. Yeah.
I was going to ask. I mean, can I ask you to add about it?
Yes, I can do indeed. And this is a way where so this is a new area of the site where managers can actually access how well teachers and trainers, how they're engaging with the scheme and the badges. I mean, I don't know, Sarah, if you wanted to add any more to that, because you've actually looked into this in a lot more detail than me.
Okay. Yes, so you get people in your team can add themselves to the dashboard, so you can work out, so you can see who's doing what badge, what modules people are doing. You can track what they're doing, they can track what other people are doing. And I know that some colleges have made that into a bit of a competition. So it's within some departments, they've got a leaderboard and who's done the most and who's got the most badges, which has been quite exciting. But it's free as well. It was, the pilot has just finished, hasn't there? And so it's going to be subsidised for the rest of the year, definitely. And it's a really, really good tool to have. And you can find out more about that on the Enhance website.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So yes, Sarah, great to mention that it's all free. The offer is completely free. Really important thing to add. So thinking about resources, links, community of practice. So when you click on EdTech on the front page of the Enhance website, so that's indicated by the black arrow there, the top right of your screen, you can access a range of resources and support on the badging process, as well as lots of sort of useful links. So this is the way to get into the badges and resources. And this area of the website is also where you can access the awarded practice section of the site. And this is where we have this developing community of practice in which to communicate with colleagues, peers who have shared their enhanced reflections and resources through the badging system. So if you do a 2 and 3 star badge, you can select whether you would like or not to share your reflection with the online digital community. And we hope you do share your reflections. And if we go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. The awarded practice wall, and this is what it looks like. It's showing a variety of badge submissions. So you can see, if you can see, it's quite small print, but there are different module categories that we've been talking about today. There's different badge levels, leading, exploring, adopting, and you can see the little white stars denoting the level of the stars as well. And so each one of those is a reflection, and the person submitting has given them a title, and you can see some little icons in red at the bottom right hand side corner of each one of the reflections, and you can see there whether people have been commenting, liking, bookmarking. So clicking on those is a really, really good way of finding out how others are putting into practice some of the learning, sharing thoughts, and some fantastic threads, posts where, you know, teachers are really sharing practice, talking about how they are putting, as I say, putting the learning into practice in their particular context. So do take a look at the awarded practice wall. And
it's a community of practice on there, isn't it, as well? It's turning into like a almost like a social media type situation where people are having dialogue about the work they're doing and sharing effective practice. And
exactly right. I mean, the second, if you look on the second column, the right hand column, the second one down, first thoughts reflecting on accessibility, you can see that there's already 4 people that have been posting their comments. And one of the schemes that we're piloting at the moment is to try and recruit super contributors. And these are people that have already engaged in the badge scheme, and their role is to really generate discussion in this area of practice. So if you're interested in becoming a super contributor, that would be great. You need to engage with the scheme, get a few under your belt, have a short induction meeting. But yeah, a way of really, our super contributors are saying it's a fantastic way of them finding out more about what's going on in the sector, and it's really helping to develop their practice as well. Okay, so back to you, Sarah.
So this is just to tell you about the future webinars. We've got a few more webinars coming up. One later on today at 4 o'clock. So we need to finish on time, otherwise we'll get in loads of trouble. Digital strategies and digital savviness for managers, which will be brilliant. That's Alistair and Sally. And then there's a drop-in clinic tomorrow lunchtime to talk about whatever you want. If we can move on to the next one, please. Let's just have a whip through. Have we done everything? Have we explored strategies to support our own digital well-being and the digital well-being of others? I think we've done all of this stuff. And there's lots of links and resources, which will be in the speaker notes when you get this sent to you. And if we can move on to the next one, please. If there's any questions, there's Tricia's and mine email addresses are up there. If anybody wants to ask anything now in our last minute, please do. But otherwise, thank you. I've really, really enjoyed this session. It's been brilliant chatting with you, and learning from you, and it's really comforting to know, as far as digital wellbeing, that lots of us are having really similar issues, really similar thoughts about what digital wellbeing means, and that, you know, we're not alone. We're not on our own with any of this.
Thank you, and lots of very positive comments, and thank you to everybody. Yes, the slides will be coming your way in the next couple of days, so thank you everybody. I've enjoyed the session too.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.